So this is a short video looking at the use of yoga bolsters in our practice and thinking about how we can use them and what they can bring to our yoga practice. I love using the yoga bolster. They bring such relaxation and comfort and support to different poses. So I'm going to go through a few examples with you in this video. It's certainly not an exhausted list. So I would always advise you to have a go and practice and explore what works best for you. So a yoga bolster can be used similarly to a block. So in a hatha class, maybe you're asked to sit in easy pose, and lifting your hips up from the floor can just bring a bit more space into those hips as they open up into a cross-legged position. So this can just feel a bit more comfortable if you're tight in the hips or the lower back. And it works in exactly the same way for butterfly pose. So bringing your hips up and sitting them on a yoga bolster, and maybe even into any kind of forward fold poses. It just gives a bit of ease to the hips, the hamstrings. So sitting on your yoga bolster is definitely an option. I've got some blocks here to help me with the next one. You don't have to have yoga blocks. You could use a couple of books or some cushions just to prop yourself up. I'm going to lie the yoga bolster over the blocks, and I'm using the blocks just to bring it up to a slight angle. I'm going to turn myself round, and then rather than lying flat on the floor, I'm using the bolster and the blocks just to bring myself slightly upright. So this is a lovely rested position that works really well in restorative yoga, maybe yin, definitely pregnancy yoga. If you're in that third trimester or very close to your third trimester, it's possibly really quite uncomfortable and not advisable to lie flat on your back. So having a bolster and propping your upper body up is a really nice way to get a rested position. And as with many of these poses, just have a play around with what feels good here. You know, your legs bent, maybe you bring your legs out straight, maybe they're as wide as the mat, maybe bringing soles of the feet together and knees out wide, or maybe bringing feet out wide and the knees together feels good. So just having a bit of a play around with where your arms and hands and your legs and your feet feel comfortable is a really good way to just explore your body and what makes it feel rested, because a yoga bolster very much is about finding that space, that place where the body can just completely relax and let go. And that looks different for everybody. So it's good to have some practice and exploration to find what that looks like for you. So another option with our yoga bolster, I'm just going to move these blocks out of the way because we don't need that for our next pose. I'm going to come back down to a lying position on my back, and this time I'm going to lift up my hips into bridge. I'm sliding the bolster underneath my lower back and my hips. So I'm still in that bridge position. Got a slight inversion. So I've tipped my hips higher than my head, but now I'm rested, so I don't need to put any pressure through the feet or the legs. My legs are quite relaxed. You might need to shuffle around with the bolster just to find a place that feels good for your body. And remembering that not everyone is going to love every one of these poses. So it might be that you try one of these and it really isn't for you. And that's okay. So some of you might love it and some of you might not be for you. But this can feel really rested for some people. And it takes a bit more organizing and thinking when you're using yoga props. But being rested in this position, and there is an option to maybe have a chair here so you can rest your legs on a chair, or maybe you can bring your bottom closer to a wall and you can rest your feet up the wall. Maybe your knees are happier, just staying bent with your feet grounded. Or maybe you want to bring a length into the legs. And in this position, I can definitely feel a slight stretch through my hip flexor muscles down the front here of my legs. So again, just having a play around with these positions and finding something that feels good for you is really well worth the exploration, I think. Let's slide that out and safely come up. And the last one I'm going to show you is supported child's pose. So I'm going to keep my big toes together and bring my knees as wide as the mat. And then I'm going to pop the yoga bolster in front. This is a lovely one if you are in those later stages of pregnancy. You're going to need to move the bolster a little bit further away so you've got room for baby in between legs and bolster. You might be able to bring your bolster a little bit closer, and you simply bring yourself forwards and you lay on top of the bolster in a rested child's pose. And the idea of all of these poses is that you just focus on your breath, and on each exhale you let go a little bit further. And because you're supported by the bolster, it just means that it really brings a relaxation into that posture. So one more. I'm going to come back down onto my back here. I'm bringing my knees in towards my chest. And I'm going to come into a twist. And this time I'm using the bolster just to support my legs. And it might be that I want to come into a one-legged twist and the bolster is supporting the one leg, my top leg that's coming over. So again, it can be used to fill those gaps between the body and the floor, just so that you can rest down further into those positions, maybe even coming into a shavasana on your side and popping the bolster in between legs can feel really restful as well. So a big cushion can be used instead. Bolsters are quite solid, so they do hold their shape a bit better than a pillow does. However, you can still experiment and use a pillow for many of the things that I have just suggested, and there are probably many, many other things that you can use a bolster for, just to find a rested shape for your body in some of those poses that we explore in yoga. So enjoy exploring how it can work for you.